Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. Formula 1 2022 came to an end in Abu Dhabi, and now it is time to look back at my predictions. How many did I get right? How many more did I get wrong? Should be fun to look back at my predictions from nearly 8 months ago, right? Well, normally they are embarrassing, and if you have watched any prediction video on this channel before, you know how far off I usually am. So make sure you subscribe and let's begin. Williams 10th with Albon 18th and Latifi 20th.
I think this is going to be a backward step for the team. I think losing George Russell is a big loss for them because he was the one getting into Q2. He was the one most likely to score points. He definitely had the most pace out of the car. I have defended Nicolas Latifi till the cows come home. I think he does a good job. He doesn't really retire from races very often. He gets to the end. But I'm not seeing a lot of pace from that car in testing. It looks okay, and I think they will score points. I think every team will score points this year. Every driver will score points.
Well, points straight away for Williams and Latifi finishing last, although they were almost the most obvious choice to make. Albon too actually finished 19th, so if I was a little less ambitious, I would have got all three right. It was another bad year for Williams, and Latifi in particular has struggled, whilst Albon very much came out of the season with his stock on the rise. But Williams returned to the bottom, and I don't know what it will take to get them back in the midfield. Maybe an American rookie? Alfa Romeo 9th, Bottas 14th and Zhou 19th.
They finished 9th last year. I think they'll finish 9th again. Bottas, his consistency, I think he will get to the end of races and score the odd points finish here and there. Whereas Guan Yu Zhou, he's going to be looking for those sort of 9th, 10th places. But I think he will get some.
I was close with Zhou, and honestly he was the unluckiest driver on the grid. He put in some genuinely good performances, and he had so many points stolen from him by mechanical issues. I think he had the most mechanical failures of everyone, and it robbed him of a very good first season. Bottas would have been 14th, maybe even lower based on his end of series form, which was horrible. But his great start to the year meant he finished 10th, and Alfa Romeo finished 6th. On the face of it, very good, but seeing as he only scored 4 points in the last 13 races, they need to stop that slide. Honestly, their form was insane, scoring 51 points in 9 races, followed by 4 in 13. I don't even know how you do that. How can you have such a good car at the start of the year and then a dog by the end? Talk about a season of two halves. Alpine 8th, Alonso 12th and Ocon 17th.
I think he's going to struggle this year. Alpine had a difficult testing period, and I can see Ocon finishing 17th and possibly his final year in Formula 1.
I don't know what Esteban Ocon did to annoy me. Did he send me pics of his morning croissant? Why did I put him down in 17th? He finished 7th. This was a terrible prediction. Just call me Nostradamus. Alonso finished 9th instead of 12th, which is a little closer, but Alpine grabbed a decent 4th, not 8th. This was stupid in every way, and I am genuinely embarrassed. I don't know why I put the dampers on Alpine, but they did more than prove me wrong. They made me consider retiring, deleting the channel and going into hiding. Haas 7th with Magnussen 10th and Schumacher 16th.
K-Mag coming back. It's good to see him. As much as I said, like Pietro Fittipaldi should have the seat, I did say Kevin Magnussen was the next best option, and honestly, he's probably the better option. Came back to testing, he posted some great times, so it's all looking like it's coming together for Haas at last.
I was very optimistic on what Kevin Magnussen could do on his return, but I looked very smug early on in the season. It's a shame Haas couldn't keep it up, and slipped down the field as the season went on. Money might be the main problem. They did lose their main sponsor, and Schumacher did crash a lot at the start of the year. Speaking of Mick Schumacher, I got this spot on. He finished 16th and towards the end of the year was driving very well. Shame they gave him the boot. So that's 3 right, but Magnussen only got 13th, not 10th. So I got that wrong, and if I hadn't dumped all over Alpine, I may have got Haas right. They finished 8th. It was a better year for Haas, but they need to keep up performances over a whole season. Next year, with 2 experienced drivers, maybe they'll do alright. Maybe not. Aston Martin 6th with Vettel 9th and Stroll 15th.
I don't think it gets said enough that Sebastian Vettel is still a very, very good race driver. He spins a lot more than he used to. But he does get results. He did finish second in Hungary before being disqualified. Now, I think he got another podium somewhere else as well. Was it Azerbaijan? He's a very capable driver still. And I think he will score points more often than not in 2022. But I do think the Aston Martin doesn't look quite on the pace. I mean, they did some okay times in testing. I think Sebastian Vettel had a very impressive long run at one point. So it's hard to tell.
Look at that, another one right. Lance Stroll did indeed finish 15th. It has been a terrible year for the Canadian. 8-point finishes, 6 of which were for 10th place, and therefore only a point each. He's had a few crashes and been outclassed by Sebastian Vettel all year. Lance Stroll is bad and is a chain hanging around Aston Martin's neck. Sebastian Vettel ended his Formula 1 career with a 12th place finish in the championship, and Aston Martin themselves were a little disappointing. They are ambitious, but so far that is not paying off. Fernando Alonso may drag them further up the table, but Lance Stroll just doesn't do enough to aid them in the Constructors' Championship. Expect another mediocre year in 2023. AlphaTauri 5th, Gasly 7th and Tsunoda 13th.
This is Gasly's year. This is going to be a huge year for Gasly. It's been building up for the last couple of years. He's taken a win. He has been putting in quick, consistent performances most of last year. Easily, he's going to be getting into Q3 on a regular basis. He's going to be scoring points at pretty much every round, and there are going to be some big results for him this year.
What happened, AlphaTauri? A couple of years ago, Gasly won a Grand Prix. In 2022, he struggled to score points almost the entire year. And as for Tsunoda, he looked more like a rookie this year than he did in 2021. This was awful from the Red Bull B team. They were over 120 points off 5th place. Pierre Gasly, who I suggested would be the best of the rest in 7th, actually finished down in 14th and jumped ship. Tsunoda was even worse in 17th. Did anyone expect this? For AlphaTauri to drop off so much in just 1 year? They were the second worst team in 2022. This has to change. If Tsunoda doesn't perform in 2023, he will be gone. De Vries, it'll be interesting to see what he can do, but AlphaTauri have to find some performances, or next year will be horrible to watch. McLaren 4th with Norris 6th and Ricciardo 11th.
Daniel Ricciardo, I think, is a bit over the hill. I just don't see the same hunger from him that we used to. Those big lunging overtakes. You do occasionally see them, but not like we used to. Not like his Red Bull days. I think this is definitely the autumn of his career, and it'd be a shame to see him outside the top 10, but I can see it happening. But I think Norris, definitely one of the bright sparks of this championship, and I think he's going to finish 6th.
Lando Norris is such an impressive driver, and he was the best of the rest. Not quite 6th, in fact he was a long way off 6th, but 7th for what McLaren provided is still a good season for the young Brit. Daniel Ricciardo did actually finish 11th, so maybe I did predict his downfall in a way. McLaren barely missed out on 4th, mostly because Ricciardo finished 11th, funnily enough. McLaren will have wanted to do better than they did, and they did get better towards the end of the year. Watch them put in a big fight back with Norris and Piastri in 2023. Mercedes 3rd with Hamilton 3rd and Russell 8th.
I think it's always dangerous putting Lewis Hamilton outside the top 2. You have to remember, he hasn't finished lower than 2nd since 2013. It's a long time ago. But with Mercedes in a bit of trouble at the start of the championship, and Red Bull and Ferrari seemingly being as strong as they are, if it takes 2 or 3 races to get the Mercedes on pace, that's a big deficit to make up. And if it goes on longer than that, then 3rd will be a pipe dream.
Well, I get a point for Mercedes, but that was hardly a shock. What is a shock is me putting George Russell down in 8th, especially as he finished 4th, beating his all-conquering teammate and taking the German Giant's only win of the year in Brazil. This was an incredible year for Russell. Now, Lewis Hamilton, the best of all time, the F1 GOAT. He was pretty rubbish, weren't he? 3rd was generous. He spent most of the year complaining about the car whilst trailing his teammate, who seemed to get to grips with it a lot quicker. Hamilton got better results in the second half of the year, but he has driven worse in 2022 than any year before. Spa being a moment I think deserves to have a light shined upon it. Entirely Hamilton's fault, which he admitted, but summarised his year pretty nicely. I do expect Hamilton and Mercedes to bounce back in 2023, but his biggest challenge right now will be beating George Russell. Maybe he should just retire. Red Bull second with Verstappen first and Perez fifth.
I don't know how much of a challenge Ferrari are going to be. I'm not sure how much of a challenge Mercedes are going to be at any point. But I think Verstappen has what it takes to keep the momentum up and take the championship win for a second year in a row. Sergio Perez backing him up. He put in some good performances. He took a win in Azerbaijan, although again, very lucky. It's going to be a case of he needs to get closer to Verstappen. He needs to back him up better. We saw it at times last year, but not consistently enough. Over 23 races, I would like to see Perez constantly shadowing his teammate, maybe even getting the better of him at times.
Well, I presume Sergio Perez would have a much worse series than he did, or that the title fight would be a lot closer than it was. Maybe I just presumed Red Bull would never win a team's championship ever again, but they did, dominantly, and Max Verstappen destroyed everyone else in Formula 1, taking his second title with ease. A bit too easy. I expected a lot more from Ferrari. So much more, enough to beat Red Bull, but they didn't. As for Perez, he did better than fifth and was unlucky to miss out on second in the championship. Maybe I don't give him enough credit. Will they do it again in 2023? That remains to be seen. They have to be the favourites, but Ferrari and Mercedes were definitely threats at various points this year. Verstappen just put a better season together. Ferrari first, with Leclerc second and Sainz fourth.
Carlos Sainz Jr. is a fantastic driver. He's one of my favourites in the field, and he's been getting better year on year. And if Ferrari are back on pace, he will take his first win, probably get a few more podiums as well. But he is going to be backing up teammate Charles Leclerc, because I think Leclerc has been a champion in waiting, and I think he will be waiting a little bit longer. But I think in 2022 we're going to see clear signs that Charles Leclerc is a fantastic racing driver.
This presumed Charles Leclerc was going to put in a much stronger challenge than he did. What actually happened was he finished 146 points behind Max Verstappen, made mistakes, especially the crash in France. All the while, Ferrari sabotaged him the rest of the time, and he took a couple of wins, but Leclerc should have been doing a whole lot more. And this was a missed opportunity for Leclerc and Ferrari. Sainz didn't quite finish fourth, ending up fifth instead, but he took his first win and had a good year. Mechanical issues played their part in him not finishing fourth. Austria in particular springs to mind. Ferrari are nearly there, but reliability, tactics and consistency need to improve. Maybe in 2023 Ferrari will take the championship for the first time since 2008. Maybe even the drivers for the first time since 2007. So they were my predictions for 2022. How many did I get right? 8. 8 out of 30. That's not too bad by my normal level, but putting Alpine down in 8th, that is shockingly poor judgment. Sums up my life really. I'll be doing these again next year, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for more motorsport. Leave a like and tell your friends. How did your own predictions go? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.